they never knew.
If this is happening to you, pay close attention. You might be under surveillance, not by the government, not by a corporation, but by something much older, darker, and far more hidden. The occult. It never starts the way you'd expect. There's no ceremony, no shadowy hooded figures. It starts with kindness. You're at your lowest, alone, broke, desperate. And then someone appears, a stranger, but somehow they feel familiar, like they've known you your entire life. Maybe she smiles at you through a car window. Maybe she gets out and joins you on the sidewalk. She brings you coffee, lunch, laughter, attention, love. And before you even realize it, you've opened the door. They call this the love bomb, a tactic used by occult networks to lure, trap, and extract. Extract what? Not just your secrets, not just your habits or routines, but your entire soul signature, your emotional patterns, your weaknesses, your energetic imprint. They aren't there to help you. They're there to harvest you. This is the story of one man, but it could be anyone. He thought he met a savior. What he met was a smiling predator. He wasn't sleeping in doorways or panhandling, but he was close. Every morning, he'd bike to a four-way intersection near the hospital, a worn backpack slung over one shoulder, newspapers in his hand, and hope in his eyes. The paper was written by the unhoused, for the unhoused. A few cents from every copy went to him. It was honest work, dignified. Some cars would ignore him, others would roll down their windows, drop $1, offer a nod. And then, one morning, a red car stopped. The woman behind the wheel was striking, bright red hair, vibrant smile, full of life. She seemed out of place in this setting, like she belonged on a movie set, not a traffic stop. But she bought a paper, smiled, asked questions. The next day she came back, then again. Eventually she parked the car and joined him on the curb, brought breakfast sandwiches, laughed at his jokes, said she admired his resilience. To anyone looking, it was beautiful, a random act of kindness that bloomed into an unlikely friendship. But the deeper truth? She was studying him. The way he spoke, the way he thought, his body language, his background, his trauma. These weren't just conversations. They were data mining operations. She introduced new habits into his routine, offering weed at lunch, pushing him toward impulsive decisions, inserting herself into private parts of his life. She even wrote a flattering piece about him in the same newspaper, praising his courage. She bought 10 copies. He believed she was helping him, that maybe, just maybe, someone finally cared. But care isn't random in the world of the occult. Everything is permission-based, and everything is documented. Behind that red smile was a red file, a profile, a narrative, a strategy. When the time came to pull the string, to cause his fall, his breakdown, his silence, she would be the last person anyone would suspect. That's the tactic. Be the solution until you become the problem. One day, standing outside a Greyhound station with his backpack slung low, he met another woman. This one was younger, nervous, chatty. Said she was looking for a roommate. A coincidence? Maybe. But when he told the redhead about it, she was thrilled. Too thrilled. "You should do it," she said. "I can help you move in. I'd love to meet her." Why would someone so busy, so supposedly successful, be this invested? But when you're broke, you don't question kindness. You accept it, gratefully. She showed up that weekend with fast food, cheap beer, and a smile. Took selfies, laughed with his new roommate. She said she was a B-list actress, that she was working on a short film. Everything about her was larger than life, but something about her never added up. She'd bounce between hyper-involved and mysteriously absent. One day she'd shower him with gifts, the next disappear without a word. He started to feel confused, foggy, like his own thoughts weren't his. It wasn't just her, it was the entire environment around him. The roommate was odd too, friendly but distant, never asked too many questions, always kept the bedroom door locked. Subtle things began happening. Clothes moved, items missing, conversations he didn't remember. Then came the dreams. Strange, repeating, candles, chains, red symbols on the wall. The more time passed, the more the redhead inserted herself into his routines. "Let's go hiking," she'd say. But it was always somewhere remote, isolated trails, off-grid. Sometimes she'd roll him a joint, light it, and smile, watching. Other times she'd take long videos of him talking, saying it was for a documentary. All the while, he thought it was love. But this was no love story. This was surveillance, wrapped in seduction. A story was being written about him, not in truth, but in fiction. A narrative meant to play out one day, and when it did, no one would believe he didn't see it coming. Isolation doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, so quietly that the target doesn't even notice the walls closing in. For him, it began with small shifts. People who once stopped to talk at the street corner stopped noticing him. Friends from the mission drifted away. Calls went unanswered. Even the roommate who once seemed friendly now avoided eye contact, slipping into her room and locking the door behind her. And through all of it, she remained, the redhead, always arriving right on time, always filling the empty spaces, always offering just enough attention to make sure he depended on her, and only her. This is another occult tactic. Control the social environment around the target. She'd say things like, "People misunderstand you. You can't trust anyone but me. Your roommate seems jealous of our friendship." Small seeds of doubt, planted gently, watered daily. Before long, he stopped reaching out to others, stopped sharing meals at the mission, stopped participating in anything that wasn't connected to her. And the more isolated he became, the stronger her influence grew. She'd show up on his lunch break and talk for hours, sometimes about her acting career, sometimes about his childhood, and sometimes about things he hadn't told her, not directly anyway. That's when he began to feel watched, not by her eyes alone, but by something behind her, something unseen. His energy changed. He felt drained, foggy, unsure of himself. He started making poor decisions, skipping work, smoking weed she brought, following her suggestions without question. When he tried to pull back, she became sweeter. When he drew closer, she became distant. This is the push-pull cycle designed to create dependency, confusion, and emotional instability. The isolation was complete when he realized there was no one left in his corner. No family, no friends, no mentors, just her. And in the world of occult manipulation, if they can isolate you, they can control you. And once they can control you, they can use you. In the world of covert spiritual warfare, there's no weapon more subtle than confusion. It doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like something's wrong, but you can't name it. For him, confusion crept in slowly. He'd forget small things, where he placed his keys, why he entered a room, whether he'd eaten that day. But it wasn't normal forgetfulness. It was thick, like trying to think through fog. His sleep became fractured. He'd jolt awake at 3:33 a.m., heart racing, as if someone had just been in the room. The redhead would text him immediately after. "Just thinking about you. Can't sleep either." Coincidence? Or conditioning? When he spoke to her about the confusion, she leaned in close and whispered, "Maybe you're opening up spiritually." In reality, he was being broken down. Sleep deprivation is a known tactic, not just in military operations, but in the occult. It weakens boundaries, opens the subconscious, makes suggestion easier. One night, she gave him tea. He drank it and slept for 14 hours straight. When he woke up, he didn't feel rested. He felt disconnected. People he used to trust now seemed suspicious. Her voice, once comforting, now made him anxious. And still, he couldn't leave. She had become his anchor. She knew what he liked to eat, what he feared, what childhood moment made him cry. He had told her everything. This is the occult tactic of forced vulnerability. They make you feel safe, then use that trust to distort your reality. Suddenly, he was having thoughts that didn't feel like his, impulses that felt foreign. He'd stare at himself in the mirror for long minutes, unable to remember who he was before she arrived. His soul wasn't just being harvested, it was being rewritten, in real time, under the watchful eye of a smiling woman and something dark standing just behind her. Once you're isolated, confused, independent, the next phase begins. Ritual manipulation. It doesn't always look like black candles or blood-stained robes. Sometimes it's just a conversation that leaves you drained, or an object gifted to you that never feels quite right. For him, it was subtle at first. The redhead gave him a necklace, said it was for protection. But he started having night terrors soon after. She lit incense whenever she visited, said it helped clear the energy, but it left his room feeling dense, suffocating. One night, she asked to meditate with him. They sat across from each other in silence, but what he didn't know is that certain postures, mantras, and objects can function as activation rituals, especially when done with a handler who's part of a larger system. After that session, he had vivid visions, people without faces, rooms he'd never been in, a sense that he was being watched from inside himself. The dreams got worse. One night, he woke up to the sensation of pressure on his chest, as if something invisible was sitting on him. Sleep paralysis? Or an energy transaction in progress? These are ancient techniques designed to break the soul down in stages. By now, the redhead had grown colder, less interested in casual visits, but still deeply involved in every decision he made. She started introducing him to new friends, people she claimed were in film, music, or healing. They all had the same strange quality, overly friendly, overly interested, and yet empty. That's when he noticed something. Every time he spoke about certain things, his dreams, his intuition, his fears, they all reacted the same way. Change the subject, offer comfort, redirect. Not one of them encouraged him to explore the truth, because they weren't there to help. They were there to reinforce the programming. In occult setups, the handler is rarely alone. There's always a team, a silent network, friendly faces hiding a singular mission, to keep the target asleep until it's time to shut him down for good. When the trap is fully set, the next phase begins. Collapse. Not always dramatic, sometimes it's a slow leak of willpower. For him, things began unraveling on all fronts. The rescue mission where he was staying started to feel hostile. Staff he once trusted began treating him coldly. Fellow residents who used to nod in greeting now avoided eye contact. He didn't know it then, but the energy field around him had shifted. Spiritual sabotage leaves a residue. It repels favor, attracts confusion. His phone would glitch, buses would run late. Every move felt like walking uphill. Then came the jobs. He'd show up on time, only to be told they weren't hiring. He'd get hired, only to be fired a week later for unexplained reasons. At first, he blamed himself. Then he blamed bad luck. But luck had nothing to do with it. These were the effects of a ritual collapse protocol, a curse designed not to kill, but to disintegrate. Meanwhile, the redhead's visits became sporadic. She'd appear when he was at his lowest. "You okay? I've been worried." And then disappear again. Trauma bonding in motion. He began second-guessing his instincts. He'd see her laughing with other men and feel jealousy, despite not being in a relationship. He'd open up to her about fears and dreams, only to feel mocked or redirected. One day, she invited him to a dinner party in the hills. All creatives, she said. But the house was strange, the guests even stranger. He felt watched, not by people, but by something else. In the corner of the room sat a man in all black, silent, sipping wine, and never blinking. And in that moment, he knew. He was not among friends. He was in a chamber, a vessel, where souls are observed, tested, and sometimes taken.
When a target begins to awaken, the system responds. Not with violence, not right away, but with subtle pressure. For him, the realization came after that strange dinner party. The silence, the unblinking stares, the way the redhead touched his shoulder afterward and said, "I'm proud of you for showing up." It didn't feel like praise. It felt like completion, like the final piece of something. That night he packed a bag, left the motel without telling anyone. He thought disappearing would break the hold, but the moment he left, the pressure grew. Strangers started showing up. People who knew his name, claimed to have seen his newspaper column, offered help he didn't ask for. A woman at the bus stop sat too close and whispered, "You don't look well. You should go back to your friend." He hadn't told anyone he'd left. Another time, he noticed a man in a silver car watching him. The next day, same man, different parking lot. Coincidence or surveillance? The occult network doesn't rely on cameras alone. They use people. People inserted into your life like extras in a movie. Some are sent to distract. Some are there to trigger emotional outbursts. All of them are there to guide the target back into place, back into the timeline that ends in collapse. For him, the redhead returned, this time with tears. "I missed you. I was worried. You're scaring me." Emotional manipulation dressed as love. And for a moment, he believed her. But then she said, "Come back. I have something to show you. You'll understand everything." That's when he knew. She was not alone. She had never been alone. And going back might mean he'd never return. There's a moment in every spiritual trap where the soul reaches its limit. Not physical exhaustion, soul exhaustion. For him, that moment came in a motel bathroom. Water running, lights flickering. He stared into the mirror and said aloud, "I don't know who I am anymore." And something answered, not in words, but in presence. A dense, cold pressure filled the room. The lights dimmed, and behind his reflection, he saw her, the redhead, but not her. Something using her face, eyes too wide, smile too still. And in that moment, he knew he had crossed a soul threshold. The occult system had pulled him too deep. He tried praying, but the words wouldn't come. He tried calling his father. The line went dead. That's when the final stage began, the offering. In occult systems, once a target is fully broken, mentally isolated, energetically drained, emotionally destabilized, they are prepared as a vessel, a host, for whatever force seeks entrance. That night, she came again, in person. She brought him food, laughed like everything was fine, touched his shoulder and said, "I'm so glad you're still here. You're ready now." That's when he felt it, a surge of terror like being submerged in icy water. The room dimmed again, and in her eyes, he saw movement, not human, not of this world. He ran, no shoes, no plan, just instinct, into the night, into the unknown. But what matters is this. He felt something break, a cord, a link. And as he disappeared down dark alleys and across highways,
Something ancient screamed inside her, because the offering had escaped.
Most never escape, not because they're weak, but because they never realize they're even trapped. This young man did, but only because something inside him, a flicker of intuition, a buried memory, a whisper from God, refused to go silent. This is how the occult plays its game, not by overwhelming you, but by wearing you down. Not with horror movies or demonic faces, but with friendly smiles, small compromises, and convenient lies. If this sounds familiar, pay attention. If a new friend suddenly shows you intense love, interest, or admiration without history, ask why. If someone seems too good to be true, offering help, gifts, or affection too quickly, step back. The love bomb is real, but it's not love. It's a tactic used to bypass your natural defenses. And if you're someone with a powerful calling, creative, spiritual, gifted, intuitive, you may already be on their radar. They come not to destroy you directly, but to reprogram your path, to make you self-destruct, quietly, on schedule. But you can break it, and it starts by seeing it. He survived, barely, but not unchanged. He sees faces differently now. He trusts slowly. He listens to silence more than words. And when he looks back on those days, the street corner, the redhead's car, the incense, the necklace, the unblinking man at the party, he knows what it was. A ritual. Wrapped in kindness, driven by spiritual law, designed by people who look just like you and me. And if you're listening now and parts of your life feel off, ask yourself this: did I choose this path, or was it chosen for me? Because sometimes, the spell isn't cast with words, it's cast with attention, with timing, with emotional doors left open just wide enough for the wrong spirits to walk in. Don't ignore your instincts. Don't dismiss the patterns. Love should make you stronger, not smaller. And if the people around you are dimming your light, it may be time to walk away before the offering is you.